This is where we left Christopher in the last part. Still sitting in the room he gave everything to belong in, listening to the people he called family laugh at him like the sacrifice meant nothing. And once he walks out of that room, the part of him that still wanted to belong there is already gone. Christopher leaves with the laughter still on his face, but he does not go home. There is a beautiful wife and daughter waiting for him, a life that is supposed to mean Christopher finally made it out of the darkness. But after that room laughs at him, none of it feels like home, so he goes to JT, and when he walks through the door, he already looks like a man trying not to cry.
Fucking losing it, man.
He is losing it in a way that strips the performance off him, standing cracked open in the apartment of the one person outside the Bing who might understand what it feels like to fall apart and have nobody want to deal with you.
How much did you drink?
I don't know, a lot.
And already, JT wants the scene over. And part of that is understandable, because Christopher has already dragged JT through hell before. Nobody would feel safe with him coming through the door like this. But there is something ugly in JT here too. He does not even try to meet him as a person first. He moves straight into damage control.
Call your sponsor.
Christopher did not come there looking for a sponsor. He came there because he had just been humiliated by the men he still calls his friends, and the pain has nowhere else to go.
This fucking Paulie, man.
He starts with Paulie because Paulie is the freshest wound. The betrayal of thinking this old man was somehow on his side. But as Chris keeps talking, Paulie becomes bigger than Paulie. It becomes the whole room, the guys at the Bing, the men around Tony. The men he kept returning to even after they made staying alive harder. And underneath that anger, something worse starts coming up.
The shit I seen? Fuck that, the shit I did.
And before he can even go further, JT cuts him off.
I don't want to hear it. What you need to do is sober up and get to a meeting.
That line is cold. Again, it is not hard to understand why he says it. JT is hearing criminal confession from a drunk-made guy in the middle of the night. He knows this is not safe. He knows the more Christopher says, the worse it is for him. But emotionally, it is brutal, because Chris has finally started letting out the exact thing eating him alive, and JT treats it like toxic waste spilling onto his floor.
You got any fucking emotion in there?
So Chris tries to say it in the only way he can.
But my friends have abandoned me. I've been totally fucking ostracized.
He still calls them his friends. Even after the laughter, even after Tony joined in, even after the room made it clear that his pain meant nothing to them, he still needs that word to be true. Because if they were never his friends, then everything he gave up for them becomes impossible to look at. He did not give up Adriana for coworkers. He did not ruin his soul for drinking buddies. He did it for family.
Family comes before everything else. Everything. For your wife, and your children, and your mother, and your father. There's no getting out.
That same family got him standing in JT's apartment, drunk and almost crying, trying to say the simplest version of the truth.
My heart's fucking breaking and you're blowing me off?
There is no way to make that sound powerful. It comes out raw, almost humiliating, because for once Christopher is saying the thing underneath all the anger. His heart is breaking, and the man in front of him keeps treating that heartbreak like something to get out of the room.
Give me your phone. I'm calling your wife.
JT reaches for the phone because, by now, he does not want to understand Christopher, he just wants him handed off to someone else.
I do not want to hear this shit.
And that is the line that makes the room turn rotten. Fear explains why JT wants him gone, but it does not make the coldness any less disgusting. Christopher is dangerous, but he is also standing there with the last pieces of himself in his hands, and JT looks at all of it like something he wants cleaned up before morning.
I'm pouring my heart out, man.
And he means it. To JT, this is a drunk mobster unraveling in his living room. To Christopher, this is the closest he can get to asking for help.
But we met in AA.
AA was supposed to be the one place where shame could come out of your mouth and still leave you human.
Chris, you're in the mafia.
He is right, but he says it in the cruelest possible way. Christopher did not come there because he forgot what he was. He came there because he could not carry it alone anymore. JT sees the monster. Chris needed him to see the wound. For a second, Christopher looks emptied out by it. Then he says,
Fine.
Like the argument is over because there is nothing left to ask for. He turns as if he is leaving, and for 1 second, JT almost survives the night. Then Chris turns back. The gun comes up. It feels like the last sound left in a room where nobody could hear him. So Christopher goes home after all of this, and before he even gets inside the house, he sees the tree Paulie ripped out of the yard. Chris goes to it, lifts it up, puts it back in the dirt, and starts packing the soil around it with his hands. But he is not planting it. He is putting back something that has already been torn out. A planted tree grows from the ground, but this one is being forced back into place by a man who has just left another body behind him. He presses the dirt down, tries to make it hold, tries to make the damage disappear into the yard. The ground has already been opened, the roots have already been disturbed, and the thing can be stood back up, but it cannot go back to what it was before. The next time Christopher is beside Tony, they are driving through the dark, and Tony is still chewing on Phil. The asbestos, the money, the insult, the way Phil keeps making him feel like New Jersey has to swallow whatever New York leaves on the plate. Christopher listens to it and says something that does not sound like the old Christopher.
I say let him have it. Life's too short.
He is trying to calm Tony down, but there is something tired underneath it, coming from Christopher that does not feel like wisdom. It feels like a man who has already been worn down by the life Tony is still trying to win. Tony looks at him and pushes back.
It's also too short to live it as a fucking lackey.
That answer is not really about Phil anymore. Tony hears Christopher telling him to let it go, and something about it bothers him. To Tony, letting something go has never felt like peace. It feels like eating disrespect and pretending it tastes fine.
You can't fight every fucking battle, right?
And the line sits there strangely, because Tony says it like he understands the logic but cannot believe in it. Tony has built his entire life on the opposite idea. Every insult answered, every slight remembered, every little loss turned into something that has to be corrected. And now Christopher, of all people, is sitting beside him sounding like the one who has seen through it. That is what Tony cannot stand. Christopher is not supposed to be the calm one in this car. He is not supposed to be the one talking about perspective or letting things pass or life being too short. Tony wanted him sober, loyal, useful, and close, but he never wanted him to become the kind of man who could look at the game and say, maybe none of this is worth it. Christopher turns the music up, and Tony's annoyance slowly turns into something else. He keeps looking over at him, watching the loose expression on his face, the way his attention keeps slipping away from the road, the way the song seems to pull him deeper into himself. And now the earlier conversation starts to feel different. The talk about life being short, letting Phil have it, not fighting every battle. Maybe that was not peace, maybe it was Christopher floating outside himself, mistaking numbness for wisdom. Tony does not say it yet, but you can see the thought forming on his face. Something is wrong with him. The music gets louder, Christopher keeps drifting, and for a few seconds, the car feels like it is moving towards something neither of them can stop. When the crash settles, the music is gone. For a few seconds, it looks like the accident is the worst thing that could have happened. Then Christopher starts talking about the drug test.
I'll never pass the drug test.
And suddenly, the wreck is no longer just a wreck. He is dying in front of Tony, and his first instinct is still to hide the relapse. And Tony understands it immediately. The music, the strange calm, the way Christopher seemed half gone before the crash. It all comes back with a different meaning now. He was high. Tony looks at him, and something in his face goes quiet. Then he sees the car seat. The branch has gone straight through the place where Christopher's daughter could have been. That image gives Tony what he needs. A clean version of the story. Christopher was high, Christopher crashed, Christopher could have killed the baby. And once that thought enters the car, it starts doing the work for him. The phone is in Tony's hand. Help is still possible. Christopher is still breathing. But the baby seat has changed the meaning of the choice. Tony is no longer looking at Christopher like a nephew trapped in a wreck. He is looking at the future. Christopher keeps dragging behind him, the next accident waiting to happen. So the phone closes. That is the moment. Everything after it is just Tony carrying out what he has already decided. Then Tony reaches in. He does it quietly, almost gently, and that is what makes it worse. No speech, no rage. Just Tony's hand, Christopher's blood, and the awful simplicity of it. The man Christopher spent his whole life trying to be saved by becomes the last thing holding him down, and Tony watches until the struggle leaves his face. For a few seconds, there is only the rain, the wreck, and Christopher's body sitting still in the dark. All those years chasing Tony's approval, all those years trying to become the son, the soldier, the man worth saving, and this is where it ends. With Tony close enough to help him. Close enough to hear him breathe. Close enough to choose. Christopher spent his whole life reaching for a father in Tony, and in the end, Tony gave him the final answer with his own hands. The family Christopher gave everything to had already laughed him out of the room. Tony just made sure he never came back.